in this, we're going to be looking at Discord.js, which is it's an NPM module that is effectively a wrapper around the Discord API. We're going to go through the future of Discord. We're going to go into hosting options. So we're going to have a look at how you can deploy and basically run and maintain your Discord bot. We'll jump into some coding, and perhaps what we'll do is we'll have a look at some sort of interactive coding. They say that Discord.js takes much more of an object-oriented approach than most other JS Discord libraries, making your bot's code significantly tidier and easier to comprehend. Usability, consistency, and performance are the key focuses of Discord.js, and it almost has nearly 100% coverage of the Discord API. As Discord receives new features, the API will also receive it shortly afterwards. It's quite a big popular package. I mean, they've had 4.5 million downloads on NPM this year alone. There are some other packages around that you can use, but I think you're better off, going down the Discord.js route, purely because if you get stuck or you run into things, there's such a big community around Discord.js that you just generally need to type in what it is you're trying to do, and you'll find hundreds of different people trying to do the same thing. Okay, so the future of Discord and its bots. Discord has obviously grown quite significantly over the last 5 years. It initially launched itself as a gaming platform, and it still predominantly focuses as catering to the gaming industry, but it's actually used by quite a lot of various communities. They have over 250 million registered users at this point, and they deal with 963 million messages every single day, which is quite a feat considering that they don't delete any message. So you imagine over the course of the 5 years they've been running, how many messages they're storing inside of their database. That's going to be some massive database. People were creating Discord bots well back before Discord had even released an external API. They were jerry-rigging the internal API, which eventually led Discord to quickly pushing out an API that wasn't really designed to do what it is, and bit by bit they've sort of patched onto it, which is the API that we use now. They've just announced over the last, I think it was in April. In fact, you can read this post here, where they go through some of the details and how the API began its life. They go over some statistics and how they've improved the API. But what they've done now is that they're actually building an API specifically designed in the way that they want Discord bots to be used in the future. They're going to they're hinting very vaguely, but they are hinting at some features that are going to be extremely useful to us. And I think that they go through and give some examples in this post, which is, I think you might like this, Brittany. They've included a Figma design that's actually fully interactive. I didn't know Figma could do this.
Yeah, Figma actually has got a lot of features around that.
Yeah, and
is it a prototype?
Yeah, I think it's like a bot. They call it a proto. So I guess it is a prototype. But you can click on, or you will be able to natively interact with them. So you'll be able to click on. You better do things basically through this plus icon in the bottom chat. You'll be able to send messages directly to people in a standard channel that is only available to one person. So we don't have to spam every single person with the same help message. We can send it to specifically the person in a chat channel. Now, we could do that through private messaging, but the problem is bots can't send private messages to people that have DMs disabled. So you can't always guarantee to deliver that.
Yeah.
So some of these features are going to be quite handy. But you can go through. What I'll do is I'll make this repo public in a sec as well, so that you guys can go through and can experiment with some of these. But yeah, and they've got some.
This is more like a lot of things you see on Slack. When you install new plugins, right? It tries to talk to you.
Yes, and I think they're probably drawing inspiration from that, and they're trying to make a lot of things more naturally integrated inside of Discord, rather than the way that we've sort of hacked our way around in making things work. So you'll be able to have a translation bot which you'll be able to call naturally, from this menu, rather than maybe having to run a command that you would do to translate, which we'll go through the way that it works Discord works currently. But I think some of the new features they promise will make quite a difference in the way that we build bots in the future. So we can go through some of those features.
Matt,
Yeah.
Brittany had a question actually. When is the new and approved API coming out actually?
Yeah, a good question. That it's a question they're not currently answering. They only hinted at this in April, so and that they do keep hinting that there's still a long way to go, or there's a lot of new features. We're in the midst of working on a brand new, so it could take years. It might be they might drop it next month. They might drop it next year. It really depends. I think it's just I think it's like anything. You just got to keep an eye on their feeds and just see how they're going. One of the other things that they're actually taking a step into is that bots are now having to be verified, or eventually they will. You'll start noticing that some bots will have, when you look in the chat menu on the side, they'll have like a tick next to their name, which just like this. So if they've got a tick next to it, it just means that they verified the bot, which basically means that at the moment you can only verify a bot if it's in 100 or more servers. And basically a verification, I think, is a way that you're going to need to start verifying your account as a bot developer and the bot itself if you want more privileged information about the users. And I think realistically, if you're going to want to do some more of the advanced features with Discord, you're going to need to get yourself verified. How that plays out at the moment, I'm not really sure, because I don't have any bots that's in more than 100 servers. All of my bots are all in 1 or 2 servers, because they do very specific jobs rather than cater to a wider community.
Mm-hmm.
If we briefly cover on hosting options, I wanted to go through this bit first because we might not get to it once we get into the coding. There are a lot of options that you can use to host your Discord bot. All you really need is something with the ability to run Node. If you can run Node, you can host it on pretty much anything. You can host it on your own computer. I wouldn't recommend it.
If you're like a bit like more an IT guy like myself, I've hosted a few things on a virtual private server, or just a server with a virtual machine.
Yep.
So you can also do that, but
yep, that's personally my favorite is to host it on DigitalOcean. Like you say, you do need to be a bit more. You don't necessarily need to be more technical minded, but you will need to learn. It has much more of a steeper learning curve because you need more DevOps experience, or you'll need to put that time into setting up a bare bones server.
And you also need a little bit of networking skills, because you will be needing to set port forwarding on your firewall. So it takes a little bit more steps there. I think
absolutely. And it's not like anything. It's not impossible. It just takes just that little bit more. None of my, if you want to call it, DevOps experience comes from any particular course. It's all stuff that I've learned through buying a virtual private server from somebody like DigitalOcean or OVH or someone like that. They cost like, I think DigitalOcean costs $5 a month. You can get them from OVH for, I think it's little as a couple of quid or dollars a month. And just experiment with it. There are hundreds and thousands of guides, YouTube tutorials. It's not difficult. You just need, like anything, like with the coding, start with the first step and just slowly work your way through each step until you've got it set up. And it's a great way to start. They're relatively cheap, but they're not free. You'll generally find that any sort of virtual private server will cost you something. And honestly, it's not worth it. I know there are a few places out there that offer you free virtual private servers. It's not worth it. They're so cheap initially in the first place. If you can't afford the $5 or the couple of dollars a month it's going to cost, use Heroku or somewhere else. Which, honestly, if you've not got the experience, it might be worth jumping down this route initially until you understand Discord bots a bit further. And then eventually, once you get to that point, because ZeroBot actually ran on Heroku for probably its first year, and it was fine. We never needed to move it because we didn't hit the limitations. Heroku does sleep when it's inactive, and they do give you some limitations, but there are ways around that, which I'll go into in just a second. But the great thing with Heroku is you can actually hook it directly up to your GitHub repository. And once you push to master, it will automatically deploy it for you, which is a great option for keeping things in sync in real time. So it's very much you just set it and forget it. Once you code and you push that code to GitHub, it takes care of the deployment for you. It just makes sure that you're always running the latest version, but it means that you've got to be careful what you push to master. With Heroku, they give you, I think I worked it out, it worked out on their standard free platform, it sleeps whenever, I think most of you probably experience Heroku, that sleeps. If you don't access the URL, the domain, if you don't trigger whatever it is that you've got hosted on your Heroku thing, it sleeps and it goes inactive, which basically means the next time that you call your environment's URL, it will take a couple of minutes to fire back up and deal with your request, which is not what you want for a Discord bot. Generally speaking, you want that bot to be running 24/7, and depending on the sort of bot you've got. But so what you would do is I would use a service like I think they call it Uptime. Uptime Robot is one of them, and it will just ping your server, and you can set it to ping your server every 5 minutes, which will just basically keep it. And what that also does is that backs up as your service monitor as well. So if your bot goes down for whatever reason, it will notify you, so you can go back in and turn it back on, or investigate why your bot's gone down. But it will also keep your bot online for 24/7. Now, what they also do is Heroku give you this. If you were to keep your bot online 24/7, they only actually give you 24 days worth of free credit. So your bot's going to be down for 6 days of the month. But if you add a card to your account, they give you enough extra credit that you can run your month completely free. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to add your card to your thing. So what I did was I added one of my cards that I don't use. I think it was attached to like a savings account or an account that I never used. Never had any money in it. It was just an old dud account that I had a card for. So I just applied that card to it, because that way, if it did ever go over for any reason, it wouldn't get charged. But it just meant that I get 24/7 completely free hosting account, and it worked perfectly for the best part. It hosted ZeroBot for the best part of a year. The reason that it became non-viable for ZeroBot is that we actually added a feature where it logs certain things to a text file. So if something went wrong, we were able to go through the text file and find out where something went wrong or what happened. But Heroku doesn't allow you to create dynamic filing. If whatever you didn't have in your GitHub repository, basically if you were going to record logs, what you have to do is you have to save it to a file that already exists in your repository, because it would just delete it the next time it fires up the bot, which is obviously no good. You want your logs to be persistent. So you either have to have a set file, which for the amount of things we write into this file, nobody wants to be searching through 10,000 lines of logs every time they want to look at something. So we then moved up to, I think we bounced it around to various places, but we tried Now. I think it was called now.sh at the time, but it's now called Versal. But eventually we settled on DigitalOcean. I think it's been there probably for about a year or so now, and that's now where I host all of my accounts, all of my bots. DigitalOcean, it starts off at $5 a month for a droplet. It goes up, but honestly, I've got several bots running on the same. I had several bots running on the same $5 droplet. It's only recently that I increased it, because I think with ZeroBot serving such a big audience, it starts to take up quite a large. It was basically the RAM allocation was just gradually sneaking up, and I was worried that it was going to peak. So with the droplets, Brittany, it's you basically set up like a Linux server, and then you configure that server to do what it is that you want. So effectively, you would install Node. You effectively set it's like getting a brand new PC like a tower, and then you configuring it with Linux, and then setting up all of the functionality that you want it to do.
So you SSH into it?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So it has a little bit of a learning curve, but like I said, it's nothing that with a bit of practice and thing. There's plenty of guides and tutorials out there that help you through it. But you would SSH in. You would you order it with the soft, like Linux. You'd order it with the Linux version that you want on there, and they'd do that. And then you would SSH in. You would install Node and all the other things that you would need. You also need a process manager as well, because what happens is you'll log in and you'll run your bot, and then you go, cool, my bot's all up and running. You'll test it. You'll close down your terminal, but the moment you close down your terminal, your bot will no longer be running. So you need a process manager. So, sorry, say again?
Yeah, because the process gets killed.
Yeah. Yeah, so you need a process manager. I use a process manager called PM2, and it just helps keep the service running for you. So, but we can probably go into that again, maybe if we do another stream, or if people want to see some more in-depth of the way that the process manager works, or some more in-depth, like sort of more advanced topics, we can definitely do that.
All right.
Are there any more questions? Heroku never goes to sleep. Basically, all you need to do is you just need to ping it. I think, does it sleep every 40 minutes or is it every half an hour? I can never remember. But Heroku sleeps once it receives no traffic for a certain period of time, it goes to sleep. So you just send a ping to it every 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and it will, 30 minutes, cool. So every 30 minutes it will go to sleep if it's not received any traffic. So you just need to make sure that it receives traffic once every 30 minutes and it will stay awake. So if you use something like Uptime Robot, it will just keep it awake indefinitely. But you need to make sure that you've got that extra bit of credit, otherwise you'll fall short and your bot will just naturally shut down after about 24 days. Linode. I haven't tried Linode personally. I got as far as DigitalOcean. I've tried a couple of the others, but Linode is not one of them that I've tried. Isn't Linode one of the more expensive ones as well? Yeah, I'm always a Windows user. Ab just keeps trying to convince me into running Linux, but I'm too lazy, honestly. Too old, too lazy. It's I run Linux servers, but running Linux on a home server is just not on a home system. Too much work.
Yeah, I mean, I had Ubuntu installed a week or 3 ago as my main OS. But yeah, I had some strange stuff going on with my NVIDIA graphics card. And basically what they said on Ubuntu is that Linux has in general a hate-love relation with Intel. So I changed back to Windows pretty fast. But I do use it for all my servers though.
Yeah, it's definitely that Windows servers is not the way forward. Windows servers sucks, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's not even worth entertaining. Like you've got to learn Linux if you're going to run your own server.
I mean, Windows Server for the main controller is good, but that's IT stuff. For hosting websites or web applications.
Yeah, even down to gaming servers as well, because that's how I learned how to control Linux servers was through gaming platforms or gaming servers. And then now it comes down to this. It just sort of becomes a lot easier. Yeah, my notes, my document for my stream come into a few little bullet points on a piece of paper, and then I went into a bit of a rabbit hole last night and ended up writing a full scale document. I might have been in Markdown. I might have gone a bit OTT, but at least you guys now have got something that you can refer back to as well, and it helps me go through. So I think we got any more questions on hosting before we move on? I just wanted to briefly cover that one before we get into the main juicy part.
Bison still has a question, and there was if Versal has a free tier or tier.
Yep.
Free tier. As far as I can see on their website, they have like start for free.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's just for 1 month or.
Not entirely sure. I used them, maybe it was probably about a year or two. It was I used it in between that process that we took ZeroBot off of Heroku and put it onto DigitalOcean. So it was about a year or two ago, year and a half ago maybe. And it was something that Abdus. So I don't know. Is Abdus in the chat? I don't think he is. No, he's not. But yeah, Abdus was quite used to using this, and it was free when I used it, but it looks like they've undergone some funding and changes, and bottom right says it's free. Okay. So yeah, I would imagine it was free, at least that a lot of the things try and draw you in with a free trial, so give it a try, see if it works for you. Personally, I found it overly complicated compared to things like Heroku and some of the others, but it's probably not quite as complicated as DigitalOcean. So give it a try, see if it works for you. At the end of the day, it's really what works for you. If you find that you get on with one platform over another, you go with a platform that makes it easy for you. Don't listen to everyone else that says you must use this to run this. Like obviously I said, don't run it on your own PC. If it works for you, run it on your own PC, but it's probably not advisable. It'll probably cost you more in electric than it would to buy a $10 DigitalOcean. I know my computer would probably cost me a fortune if I run it 24/7.
Probably.
But and then you just got to make sure that obviously your computer doesn't lock up or crash, or every time you get every time your internet dies or something like that, your bot's going to go offline. You'd be far better off outsourcing it for a couple of dollars a month. So yeah, cool.
Right.
I think we're ready to get into the juicy part. This is really going to test my knowledge now, isn't it?
Yep.
So because it's been a while since I've spun up. I should have had a play like you yesterday. So you're probably better off in a better position than I am right now, because I've not coded a bot from the ground up for quite some time. I copy and paste all of my stuff now. Copy it from one bot over into the other. Every time I need a new bot, it's like, yeah, I'll just copy this one and copy my one that I wrote 2 years ago and just tweak it to what I need. So yeah, so let's go over probably some of the requirements. I'm guessing that most of you have probably come from one of Andre's, well, you're all going to have come from one of Andre's courses, I'm sure. So you've probably all got JavaScript or and a code editor installed, but you're obviously going to need to know a little bit of JavaScript. I actually wrote, Naomi will probably remember this, but back when we first set the Discord server up, I think I'd only been doing JavaScript for about, it was less than a month. It was maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We moved over to Discord, and I helped set the thing. Well, we got the server set up and got everything moved over. And I started on the very first version of ZeroBot back within, so 2 or 3 weeks worth of JavaScript experience. Hadn't touched JavaScript before, never touched any other programming language. I'd done a lot of HTML, CSS over the previous 10 years, but I'd never touched a proper programming language. So it's not something that's, if you don't know JavaScript, it's not something you can't learn in the next couple of weeks. You can code a basic bot in the next couple of weeks if you know zero JavaScript right now in the next couple of weeks. And in fact, it's probably a great way to start learning JavaScript, because it's always one of those things. I don't know if you guys agree, but following along with Andre, I think is great for picking up the basic principles. But you really start learning once you pick up your own projects, because it challenges you to stop following and start thinking for yourself. It's like, it sounds harsh, but once you actually start applying your own things and you find your own problems, you run into complications and errors, you can then start building on that and find, okay, so this isn't working, why is it not working? And the more you fail, or the more you think you're failing, the more you're actually learning. So yeah, you can pick JS up, but I didn't know any language. When we first built ZeroBot, I didn't know any programming language. I knew a little bit of HTML, CSS. I might have been able to edit a little bit of PHP, but it was more tweaking somebody else's design. So you can definitely pick this up in no time at all. So it's helpful if you've got a little bit of JavaScript knowledge, but it's not completely impossible to pick it up. You're obviously going to need a code editor. Notepad's not going to work. You're going to need something like Visual Studio, Sublime, Atom, whatever it is that you use will probably work. You'll need one of the, probably say go with the latest version of Node.js, but anything above version 6 I believe works. You can. Which website did you mean, UJ? Jay? You mean the thing I'm looking at now, the repository? And yeah, if you want to create a bot that does things like music or streams music and stuff like that, you're going to need a couple of extra features, but we're not going to go into that in this guide. It becomes it complicates things a little bit more, but it's not overly complicated. But you can read more about it on. I've linked to it in this guide, but you just got to type into Google, you'll find an answer for the thing you're looking for. Cool. So with Discord, as I mentioned earlier, they're an event-based process, which if we look at this is a very, very, very simple version of Discord bot. If you run this with the Discord.js library installed, this will run, and we'll go into this in a little bit, but effectively all you need to do is you listen for a particular event. So an event could be something like if somebody's reacting, if you receive a message, somebody changes their online status, if they go from invisible to online. Pretty much everything you do on Discord fires an event of some kind, which the Discord library can interact, and it will send us back an object, which is why they call it an object-oriented package. And we can then abstract that object and pull out various information, which we'll go into a bit further on down the line. Is there anything you think you can add there, CSEC?
Not really. It just uses the Node.js event emitter, if I'm correct.
Yep.
So perhaps that's a little bit also of a requirement. To mention. If you don't know how Node.js works, you might be confused why there is like client.on, because I was looking over the documentation yesterday, and I was looking at the .on. I was thinking, well, where does this .on come from? And the .ones, but it suddenly jumped in my mind. It's a Node.js event emitter, but if you don't know that, if you don't know how Node.js works, which is basically the runtime for your bot, it might be interesting to also look into Node.js, how the event emitter works, so that you also understand that it is actually you're trying to call the event that the client is sending to your bot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's generally a straightforward procedure. Once you get your head around the fact that you call the client, we'll go over this code in slightly more detail once we get to this part. But you'll literally just fire the events. And in ZeroBot we deal with this all inside a message handler. So you rarely see this piece of code. You'll literally just write the code you want inside of the message event. But we'll go into that a bit further when we actually start coding. But I guess what Discord says when they explain the way that their API works is they call it a two-core layer, and it's based around HTTPS and REST API, and then it's an event, a WebSocket-based connection. And basically what that means is they're going to fire you, like we mentioned earlier. You're going to listen out for a particular event, and once you receive that event, you're then going to tell your bot what you want it to do once it receives that event. And in this particular case, the event here is anytime somebody sends a message, Discord is going to tell you about it, or Discord.js is going to tell you about it, and it's going to give you an object which we call message here. And then we can extract that message and ask for the content inside of this message. So what was the content of the message? And if it equals ping, then just simply reply to the message. And that's really as simple as it is. You just need to get your head around the fact that you need to listen to events, because it works slightly differently from an API. Usually for an API, you ask the API for information, it gives you that information, What you're doing with the Discord bot is you're actually setting up something that listens to Discord. So Discord is technically the instigator of everything, whereas in a normal API, like if you were creating some sort of other API, like Swappy is another one they use, isn't it? The Star Wars API. In one of the courses, you're the instigator. You're asking the API for information, whereas with Discord, you're waiting for them to tell you something's happened before you ask for more information, and then you deal with that on that event.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Cool. Yeah, you're basically observing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So if we go through, I think this, I don't know how much sense this makes to most people. If I start at the bottom of this code, and we'll work randomly in this because
why not?
Yeah, why not? So
why not?
because I think it's this part that's going to confuse. Right, this part is the token, which is effectively your bot's password. So when we refer to token, this is actually going to look like a very big string of random numbers and letters. It's not actually just going to be token, but this is effectively what logs into your server. So what we do to start the bot is we're obviously going to require Discord.js, and we're going to obviously name it Discord. We're then going to start a new client, which is inside of the Discord.js module, which we can then listen to all of these events. So with the token, this token, I'm going to show you guys how to get the token in a minute. You're probably going to see my token. Please don't abuse it. But in theory, you don't want to give anybody your token. Nobody should see. Your token is effectively the way to. You can reset it in its way, but once you learn how to program a Discord bot, like if you steal my token, you could use it for any purpose you want. Now, you should keep your token super secret. It shouldn't be anything you share with anyone else, because if they abuse the bot or do something stupid with it, it's your account. It's linked to your account, your Discord account, so they're going to ban you for it if something goes wrong. So you should not share that token. Unfortunately, if you maintain that, the problem is that, for instance, Anchor and Abdus help me maintain ZeroBot, but because they have access to the server, one of them has access to the server that it's hosted on, because if I'm not about, somebody else needs to be able to turn it back on if it goes down, or if it starts doing something crazy, somebody else needs to have access to it. But that also means that they have access to the code, which also means they have access to the environmental keys.
And don't push to GitHub also. Yeah.
Actually, we'll talk about ways of preventing that. But GitHub also, I've also had that where I've pushed keys to GitHub, and GitHub have emailed me saying, "Are you sure you wanted to do this? This looks like something you should have kept private. You should probably contact the company." And I think if you publish a token that GitHub gives you, they automatically close they revoke that key, that token. And then they email you about it saying, "Oh, you published this token. We're not happy about that, so we've just revoked it. You're going to have to deal with it and change whatever application you used it in," which I think is super handy.
Well, I guess
GitHub actually recently launched a secret scanning service on their. So if you push a code with some recognized tokens like AWS or something, they'll probably tell you.
Yeah, and I think because I think that's what they did with one of my GitHub ones before I posted like a GitHub secret. So yeah, so keep that token super secret.
I don't know if you still get a notification when you make your project private. So, but I guess you just make your bot project private on GitHub.
Yeah, that's also another way. It's ZeroBot actually started off as a public thing, but we eventually made it private because of some of the stuff that it does under the hood. It just made more sense just to keep that bot code private. So I think it just depends. It depends on what you really want for the bot. If you want an open source program that people can contribute to, obviously you're going to need to make it public. But otherwise, you're probably going to want to keep it private, and that would obviously help if you share your token. So in order to get your Discord token, you're going to need a Discord account, which I'm hoping all of you have got.
Well,
I would imagine you do, considering you're joining us today.
So
you're going to need to sign in to Discord's website, and then you're going to need to come to the developers tab and the developer portal, which brings you up to your application. If this is the first time you've done any of this will be completely blank. This is purely just some of the bots that I've created and other people have created that I work with. You can create teams so that other people are able to access certain features. So like I say, Abdus and Not Anchor will be able to access all of the ones that are in the Zero to Mastery team, but they won't be able to access any of my private ones. We need to give it a name, and then we can add it to a team. I think we were going to go with, what were we calling it? Was it Dummy, wasn't it?
Dummy, yeah.
Cool, which I already practiced making, so hopefully it'll let us do it again. Yes, it will. Now here, we can add an avatar if we like, but we don't have to. So the client secret, again, you want to keep this secret, but this is not the one that we're looking for. We're going to need the client, we may need the client ID, so we'll come back for that again if we need to. And that's it, you just need to save the changes. And then what we need to do, you can ignore the rest of this because this is some more advanced features if we want to be able to log into with the bot. But we just need to come to the bot tab, build a bot, and we need to give it a presence. So we just click this, and it just warns you that adding a bot gives your app visible life in Discord. However, this action is irrevocable. Choose wisely. Yeah, and the rest of it we don't really need to touch. This privilege gateway intents is going to be all part of this new update. So you probably, if you're going to get into Discord botting, you're probably going to want to pay some sort of interest in this, but I don't think for the time being we nearly need to worry about it. If we do, once you start coding stuff, it'll become quite clear that you need to toggle these on. But for the time being, we can leave those off. You're going to need to click to reveal the token. We won't do that just yet.
Press copy.
Oh yeah, you can click copy, and then we can come in. I'm going to drag this over here because we're going to need to set up our... So we've now got a Discord bot. We just now need to make the code to make it work. And what we're going to need to do is go to npmjs.com, and we want Discord.js. I think
it's a Discord.js.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so that's the one.
It's this one. Cool. So yeah, so here we go. Here's Discord. Yeah, we'll accept that. So this is the package that we've been talking about for the last hour and 10 minutes. We just need to install that into our workspace, which I guess you guys have probably done quite a bit already. So we'll just install that. So we're going to do npm init. You can name all of this and you can go through, but you can just enter all the way through. The only part that we actually need to pay attention to, the important aspect of package.json is going to be this line here. This is effectively, once you run your Node application, it's going to try and start the file that's called index.js. You can leave it at index.js, but out of habit I always call it bot.js, because if I put express or I do some sort of API on the other end, I've then got an index file that's specifically set for express and routes.
Yeah.
So what we need to do then is I'm going to do two things. I'm going to create a git ignore file, and we're going to ignore node modules. Did I do that right?
I think you might have made a little typo in your .git ignore.
Oh, I did. You're right. Good catch. It's this new keyboard I'm using.
Ah, yeah.
There we go. Cool.
Okay, that's better, yeah.
Why is it not? Oh, it needs to be modules. There we go. And that got rid of all the... So we're no longer tracking the files in this, so it'll just be the changes. I think we're good with that. Cool. So now we've got that, we need to create our bot.js folder. Cool. The other thing I'm going to do is, do you think it would be worthwhile using .env? Should we go through that, or?
Well, we could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that.
I
Because
don't think
important.
it's that much overhead, and it's really kind of important.
Yeah, it's important. I just wondered whether it was a little bit above the scope of this, but I think it's important that most people do use .env, particularly when they're going to be deploying stuff like this. So .env, let's open it up. .env is so how do we? Is it all one word? This one, isn't it? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one. So .env is for those of you who don't know, .env is a package that allows you to set environmental variables that you can keep private. So you would set them in a particular file, which basically means that they're not visible anywhere else. And when you deploy them to certain places, they give you the option, like Heroku will give you a section where you can add your environmental variables, and then in your code you can just type in process.env, and then the variable name that you've given, the env variable name that you've given it. So you can see here in our env file we've called, or we would have called db user is root. So when we say actually in our file process.env db user, it will look up what that refers to and it will use it. So you don't have to declare it inside of your code. And what you would usually do is in your git ignore file is you would ignore any env file so that you can't possibly commit that to GitHub, and that literally stays on your local machine and your deployment service. So all we do to install that, again, like most things, we're just gonna copy it from there, copy it into our terminal. For those of you that don't use the terminal inside of VSC, it's a lot easier. I find it a lot easier. Sometimes I use a separate terminal depending on what it is that I'm logging, but when you're doing two lots, I find it a lot easier. So this is no different than your other terminal that you might use, like your command prompt or your fish shell or whatever it is that you use depending on your operating system. It just allows me to do it all from one screen, especially when we're screen sharing like this. It keeps it all in a nice tight package, but it's no different with the way that you might do it with Andre's courses. What we can do is we should probably exclude that from our git ignore file, and then we should create .env.
Yep.
And then what we would do here is we would create bot token equals, if I say 123 for now, when we come into bot.js, if we did console.log process.env, and I'm aware I'm doing it wrong,
process.env and then
but I call it bot token, that will eventually, what we actually need to do is we need to require.
Yep.
And what you need to do with this is you need to put it up as early as possible in your application. Otherwise, what will basically happen is you'll be running code that could potentially be requesting the thing. So if I entered this down here, it's going to be trying to request something that doesn't exist. Has anyone started the Dino course yet?
I haven't started the Dino
That's
course
crazy.
yet. I did do a little bit of the study around it though. Before the course came out.
Yeah.
I did the first section just to get an introductory thing.
Just as a quick thing, if you've done the course and you've installed this package that they or this extension that they recommend you install, and you start getting stuff like this, even when you start typing in stuff like const test, you'll start seeing that it will. It's not going to do it for me now. But when you write long pieces of code, or you've got a full code file, you'll start seeing that stuff errors out, and it's basically because it thinks it's a TypeScript folder or a Dino code. So you just need to disable it from the workspace. Reload, and you'll notice that it no longer chucks up errors. So for those of you that might be frustrated about that, because it frustrates me. There we go, and then we can just do npm start. Although I didn't save it. We can't do. Need. There we go, and it's pulling out our process thing. So this env folder, you never commit to GitHub. So if you add it to your git ignore file, GitHub will never attempt to track it. So when you do your push, you'll never be able to upload it, in theory. And then what you would do is you would just put any confidential tokens inside of your env folder. But once you deploy, you need to make sure that you upload. And it's pretty simple. If you're doing with Heroku, you can just search Heroku environmental variables, and you'll find various ways of using your environmental variables on Heroku. If you get stuck, just reach out in Discord somewhere and somebody will be able to help. This is the starter code that we had in the GitHub repo. Okay, yeah, might need to. So what it's here is it's trying to log in with the token of token, and we can see that we've gotten the error that the token is invalid and in token was provided. So at this point, what we need to do is we need to go back over to our Discord thing, and we need to copy the token that was given to us. I'm gonna post this in my env folder off screen, but it will.
Gonna play it safe after all.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it safe. I'll probably flash it at some point, but for now we'll keep it secret. There we go. So if we try and rerun this now that I've got the correct bot token, which I don't. So cool. So yeah, so we're going to use process environment, and what that's going to do is, again, that's just going to call from here, which is going to call our .env file, and it's going to grab the one that we've called bot token. I'm not logging that anymore, am I? Save it. We run that again. There we go, and we've logged in. So what that's basically done is that has listened to Discord. Discord has fired the ready event, and it's now logging back that the client, inside of the client, which we're getting here, we can look up certain user events. So we can look up a lot of different, we can look at different keys inside of the object that they provide us, which is going to give us the user and the tag. So this is the user. The user tag is just basically going to give us the full thing. You can also look up user. In fact, if we just console log. If we console log that, run this code, okay. If we take a look at the it's going to give us an object. That's interesting. Object.key. So we can take a quick look and see what we've got inside of the client. So there we go. So they're going to give us the events, the event counts, max listener, timeouts, intervals. There are a lot of these that I've never even touched in the entire time I've been coding Discord bots, but there are some of these that are going to be particularly interesting. Some of those that you use will probably be users, guilds, channels, presence, maybe. I've not touched too much of those, and the user. So we've already seen the user, which will give us a whole bunch of useful information. If we rerun that, which will give us the ID. The bot will just tell us if it's a bot account or not, which obviously in this case it clearly is. But if we run a message or we ping, we'll be able to tell whether it was a bot, which comes in pretty useful, because one of the things that we actually want to do in this part here is we should really ask whether the message was sent by a bot, and if it was sent by a bot, we should ignore it. Otherwise, what can happen is you can have a thing where bots will just continuously keep talking to each other, which is not something that you want.
Yeah, true.
So that's always one thing to do. Yes, correct. It's connected. We're going to jump into that in a second. What I usually do in the bottom of the question was so at the moment that the bot is connected to the Discord server, but it's not in a specific channel. Yes, that's correct. We're connected to Discord, but we haven't actually told it what to do. So in the bottom of here, I've actually got a handy snippet. This is something that I usually use. There are multiple ways that you can get a Discord bot into servers, but this is the piece that I usually use. And all it does is it's literally just going to try and see if it can get the client invitation code. Whatever you type in here is going to be the permissions that you're going to give your bot once it joins that server. You can change this later inside of the settings, but because it's a bot that I'm coding, I think I'm going to give it full administrator access to start with, and then we'll tweak it and go from there as we go. So if we paste that code in here inside of the ready event, basically what this is going to do is once we receive the ready event, we're going to try and generate an invite link. Once we do, we're going to log it into the console. So let's give that one a go. I'm actually going to run, can I run node 1 or am I going to have to, yeah, there we go. Is it going to log it? Oh, I didn't save it. Okay, so because we're using await, yeah, await's only valid in an async function, so we just need to make this an async function. And there we go, and it's given us a URL that we can activate. When we load it, it will allow us to select the server that we wish to thing it. In order to set up a server, we're going to go to add server. We're going to need to create a new server. Let's call it bot test. You can add you can add an icon here, but I'm not going to bother. Bang. Okay, so we've basically got a very basic server. Got some channels. What we can now do is with this invitation code, this one here, we can open that up and we can invite the bot to our channel. So I'm going to invite it to bot test, continue. I'm going to give it administrator, but you can toggle this. When you invite public bots, you probably shouldn't give a public bot administrator access. You should probably configure it just for the things that you want it to be able to do. Because you never know, if a bot gets compromised, you never know.
True.
So okay, so we've now authorized the bot. The bot should now be, if we open Discord back up, we should find, there we go, we've got a bot, and you can see it's not got the tick next to it, so it means that it's not a verified bot. Now we've got it set up, we can say, if we write a message that literally just contains ping, the bot will literally just reply pong. Okay. Cool. I think we're done. We can call it a day. We've built a Discord bot. No, I'm just joking. Let's go from there. So, have we got any questions?
Yeah. Why is mine not working?
Is this working? Well, your bot.
Isn't.
I don't know. What have you done?
I got the token off of Discord and I put it into my .env and I'm getting an unhandled promise rejection token invalid.
Your token's invalid then.
Well, no. You're recording this.
Yeah, you. I would imagine you want to refresh your token, I guess. Just double check that you've got the right token. Presumably you've tried that. Or the other thing is perhaps your env file is maybe missed thing if you put a space between the equals and the token.
Yeah, none of that is working. I've got it almost exactly like you have it, except without the spaces. I tried with and without quotes, and then I screenshotted my require. Is that correct?
Let me jump in there and have a quick look. Looks like it. Have you got that right? That's right at the top, is it?
That is at the top.
Huh. You said.
Brittany, if you try it in string in your client.login, do you also get the arrow?
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Takris is right. Yeah, you're missing the. Yeah, look, you're missing
I
the.
just asked you, right?
Nice
I think
catch.
the config has to be method.
What was that?
Yeah, you're missing the brackets on the end of config should be a function request.
Oh my god. And it works.
There you go. So yeah, so we've got the very basic bot that now does ping. we can. One thing that we should probably look at is if we, with the events, you get, particularly with the message event, you get back a message object. So if we console log the message, if one person wants to send a message, I know that's probably not going to result in one person sending a message. There we go. We get a massive thing that we can go through, and it gives us a whole bunch of data that we can tune from. We can pull out whether the message has been deleted, whether it's the ID of the message, the channel. So this is all the channel that it comes from. You can pull out the author details, so we can find out who authored the message, whether the message had been pinned, talk to speech. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can think, and the Discord JS documentation is probably going to be your best and worst friend. Personally, I find it a horrible documentation. I find it very difficult to use, but you can find the answers that you need there. The other place that I tend to go to is I also find, as a place I use, a lot of people think I'm insulting them when they ask me for good places to go, but one of my favourite places to go is a place called An Idiot's Guide. And the guy actually that wrote this he's writing it from his perspective. He calls himself the idiot. So it's his guide on how to make, and he goes through, and I think this is probably the guy that I spent, and I always find myself back on his site or his Discord server, looking up information in various other. His YouTube channel is not quite as good as it probably could be, but if you want to get started in the guide, they've got massive, great big long version on everything that we've been talking about today and more. And he goes through your first bot, you name it, it's all in there, and they talk through all the different introducing events, add in second commands that you can do. There's a whole bunch of different stuff in here. So I would highly recommend having a gander at this site, and even bookmarking it and referring to it as much as you possibly need. Googling is another great option. There are tons of people that, if there's something you're trying to do, you can guarantee that somebody else has tried doing it, got stuck, and asked the question on and received help. It's very rare that you can't find the exact thing that you're looking for already. So
can we also send an image response is the question.
An image response? We can. So you want to send a picture to chat? You can. Let's have a look.
Well,
Discord.
If I'm not mistaken, doesn't the ZeroBot does that when you write hello with the
Yeah, it does actually. Hello. It's literally we're just sending a rich embed, which is all native to the Discord library.
So it uses rich embed. Okay.
Yeah. So if it's not a thing, all we do is we need to require Discord, because inside of Discord they have the rich embed function, which allows us to set the author. We can set the color, which is just that little bit down the side, and then we can set a whole bunch of different things. This is only a handful of the things we can do. We can set fields. We can set the footer. There's a various array of different things that we can do. In fact, we could probably have a go at doing that if you wanted to. In fact, let's just copy all of this. Copy. I'm going to bring this over here. It's up here. So if we want, if we do if message.content includes okay, so hello with 4 O's. There we go. So we also need to. We've already got Discord installed, so we don't need to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create the embed. This is just a simple fetch request that goes off to a API that just gives us a random duck image. It's a specific API that gives us a random duck. Every time we call it, it just gives us a random duck image. So I'm sure you guys have probably seen fetch requests. And once we get that, we're going to set that as the embed image. Now you can set either the thumbnail or the main image. I think as default we're setting it as 1, but then we're going to replace it here. We don't need this test. Then we're going to wait for all that to come back, and we're going to send it. So if I save this and it reloads, did I console log? Yeah, we don't want that. There we go. So if somebody else wants to send hello, you'll probably find now that the bot will start sending. Okay, so what's going on? Okay, so we crashed. Why did we crash? Let's have a look. Okay, so we called await again. We didn't.
You didn't make it to sync.
Okay. What did I do wrong this time? What did we do? What did we do? Discord is not constructor. Rich embed is not constructor. Why is it not? What did I do wrong? We did. I see. Did we also didn't require fetch.
Oh yeah, correct.
We didn't require fetch.
That was everything normally.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay. Is it going to do it this time? No. Verified type in and then embed is a constructor. Huh. This is interesting.
Rich embed is not a constructor.
Let embed. It should be. This is. Huh. So yeah, so nothing ever goes straight forward when writing any code, but it definitely doesn't go straight forward when you're doing Discord bots. That's for sure. I've quite often said, oh, that will take 2 minutes to implement, and then 3 hours down the line, it's but it's exactly yeah. So it's all exactly the way that I had it before. JS. So what I would usually do in this case is I would Google something like send rich embed discord.js. Oops. And then I would look through various things. So I wonder if they've changed it. Is it message? I wonder if they've changed it. So let's come back in. I wonder if it's now message.
I'm looking at the API, the description. But I do not find rich embed in the latest version, so I think that might be patched out.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's not something.
Do you know which version of Discord.js the Zerobot is using?
Zerobot is using. Let's have a quick gander. Zerobot is using. Where are we? Discord.
11.5.1.
Yeah, and we're using
12.
Yeah, so it could well be patched up. What would it be?
Yeah, so in 11 they
There
had
we go.
patch embed and they patched it in 12.
Cool. So that's what it is. They've changed it.
Message.
Now we've got messages not defined, so we've obviously put in message.channel. So it's because I copied and pasted. It would be message embed test. There we go. And I think that should now work. There we go. Cool. So that's how you troubleshoot when they change.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing to know for when you're starting to debug something on your Zerobot.
Yes. Yes.
Keep
Certainly
it in
is.
mind.
It's yeah. I'm sure a lot has changed over the thing, and I'm sure it's just going to get worse. I think because they're trying to improve the way that these messages appear as well. So it's definitely thing. So we can change all this. I've actually written a custom. I don't like the way that we have to write all of this. So I generally write a custom function that allows us just to do it a lot easier. Although it's probably just as complicated, but I just find it's a little bit tidier sometimes than all of this that you have to write. So and you can do extra things as well. Like you can set fields. So what this actually should look like is you don't actually need to do all of this. You can just do dot set embed. There we go. Get rid of that one too. But you can also do things like dot set. I think it's field. So it's field, and then you can create. I'm winging this as well. I think you can set field, and then what you do is you would create the title. So you can, I don't know, we can just call it test. I think you give the next one, which is the description. Dot set field. What have I done there? I need to remove. There we go. And I think if we do hello now, I think it should give us a field, but it's probably going to error. Yeah, it's going to error. So what have I done? Okay, so we can add fields. Okay, so yeah, so we can add fields. Okay, so it's add field. Yeah. Okay, so it's add fields, and then inside of there we just need to create objects, don't we? The name would be test. What was the name and the value? Value. We just need to close that. Okay.
Right. So I'm gonna answer a question of Decora's real quick here.
Yep.
So the difference between message reply and message channel send is actually when you use message reply, it will also ping or tag the person that used the command or who wrote the question. Like if we write ping and you will get the pong with an at, so like at Decoras, that's actually basically what message reply does. It replies on the user, while message.channel.send actually just sends a text message, like someone would write in chat without mentioning or pinging you. So that's kind of the difference there.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can demonstrate that by the message.reply is that one, and then if we do message.channel.send .send.
And you will also notice then that when you use message.channel.send and you're trying to use add the person name, you won't get it highlighted, or it won't actually work like a ping. It will more just work like plain text. So if you use @saysec now, for example, I won't receive a notification that someone pinged me.
But what you can do, if you need to do it that way and you don't want it to start at the start, but say you want to say, hello, my name is, what you can then do is you can, we can do, I think it's message.author. I think we could then do toString. I think if we do that, that's going to prove me wrong. I think what that would do is that would take your author object, but it will ping you at the same time. There you go.
Yeah, okay, so it does that, yeah.
So if you don't want the ping to start right at the beginning of the message, but you want to do it inside, you can just call the message author, and then the message author is actually an object itself, which will contain things like your username, in fact we can console log console.log message.author. But again, you can look up all of this inside. It's because I haven't got the wavy keyboard anymore. If you do ping, we can see that the user contains my user ID. It tells me whether I'm a bot or not. It tells me what my username, my discriminator, which is the number after the hashes. Your avatar ID. You can actually use this to figure out what your avatar is. So you can, if you know what the Discord CDN is, you can just apply this to the avatar, to the URL, and it will give you the image. Flags, I think I've looked into this before and I can't remember what it means, but I think it means things like if you open up my name, it shows you that I'm part of. I think it just shows you things like I'm part of the Hope Squad Bravery Club. I think that's what the flags mean. It's different things that you've got inside of there. Last message ID, so it tells you the last known message that the bot knows about. So I may well have messaged on the Zero to Mastery server, but because that bot's not part of that, it can't see that message. It won't know of my last message. But this is the ID of the message, that the last message ID that the bot knows about, and then again the channel ID. Now, if you need to know channel IDs, I don't think you can find this out. It comes up here, copy ID, and you can find it out here, but I'm not sure that shows for everyone. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think you need to go into the settings, and I think there's a developer option somewhere.
There is, I think at appearance at the bottom.
Developer mode. So yeah, so you need to come into that's it. Well done. You come into appearance. Come into the settings, into appearance, scroll right the way down to the bottom. You need to turn developer mode on. That then gives you access to some of the things like you can also, if I wanted to find out what a Nets ID was, I can just do copy ID. But if I also wanted to see what that ID is, I can just do, for instance, I can just do mine. You can just come back to the beginning and put the / before. And when you do that, it tells you what the role ID is, which is also handy if you need to know what certain role IDs are, or if you want to know the role ID of the bot, or something that you don't easily have access to. You can also do that for emojis as well. So you can put a / before it. It will convert it into that. But when you enter it, it will do it in a form that we can now copy, and we could do we could paste it in there, so that when we save that and then we ping it, it will actually keep making sure I'm in the right server. I don't want to be randomly spamming. And you can use that. But otherwise, if you tried to copy in, you can also use, I believe you can also just use Joy and do it that way. But there are some times that won't work. So so there are different things that those come in handy for, and it's just little tricks like that sometimes that you can pick up through just reading the documentations or searching like how to send emojis. But some of them get very complicated because of the way that some of the emojis works. You can't use all of them. I don't know if this one, that there are some of them that when you type them in, they don't necessarily work the way that you expect that one does, but some of them don't, and I can't remember what they are offhand. So but yeah, you'll figure that out as you go through and use some of the emojis. There are plenty of guides online again, so if you're trying to use emojis and for some reason it doesn't work, just have a quick gander and see what some of the other people are saying.
WSQ Dev had an interesting question, but also kinda wants me to explore that problem, if it is a problem. If the bot would say ping, will there be an infinite loop of ping pongs?
Yeah, the two things that you want to do is you want to ignore them. You want to stop the bot from being able to ping everyone, so that for whatever reason, if you're able to get the bot to send a message, the bot would have elevated permissions that the user wouldn't, and they'd be able to ping everyone. So the first thing you want to do is there's a piece of code that you can use, and I think on Idiot's Guide they tell you how to do it there. But you can disable it and it won't let you ping the bot. But the other thing that you can do is if message, well, it would just be if message.user.bot, and then we just return. And then here we can do, so what we could do here is if we just that's not what I wanted to do. Jeez. If we okay, so yeah, so if we say ping, what did we do wrong? Cannot read bot. Was it not bot that it? Huh. Bot. I can't read bot of undefined. Oh, it's because that's right, wasn't it? Because it's message. It's message.author. Message.author.
Yeah.
Message.author, and you'd find all of this inside of the. You can either console log certain parts, so you could log the message and it would tell you, and you could just keep going through, or you can have a look into the documentation, and it would tell you the various parts that you can abstract from the object that it gives you. Part of undefined. What do we? There we go. Ping. There we go. So you can see that it fires twice, even though I only sent one message. It fired false, and then the bot sent two messages because these are two separate messages. Although they might look the same, they're actually two very separate messages. So what happens here is when we run this code where it says if message.author.bot, that's going to return true for these, so it returns. So anything below this line is not going to run, which basically means that the bot now can't reply to itself. But also, not only that, is that if you have another bot on the server, or if I coded another bot that replies to Pong, the bot is literally just going to keep responding to itself over and over again. And in fact, we could probably get it to do that. So we could probably just do here if, and this is where you're going to run into trouble if you're not careful. You can hit the rate limits of Discord, and they're not going to like that, and they're obviously going to terminate. So you just need to be careful on if we do message.reply. If we just do ping. There we go. And if I save that, and then if we say oh, I see, because it's replying to me. So if we do message.content, if we do includes, if we do the same thing here, so includes, there you go, and this is includes ping and oh, I see.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's Pong.
Yeah.
Big P. Yeah.
Okay. Ping.
Right.
Okay. It's just takes a while to think about it. But this will continuously just keep going and going and going and going. And I would imagine that they've probably usually when you do this it just goes da 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 da, and it just back and forwards just like constantly, so they're obviously limiting it in some way. So what we do at this point is we if we now use this where we just don't allow any bot messages to trigger any of this, they'll just ignore. If it's a bot that posted the message that they're supposed to respond to, it just won't fire that. Okay, so it'll respond to anybody that's human, but it won't respond to anyone that's a bot. So you could just say don't respond to yourself, but the chances are is that one of your commands is going to conflict with another bot if you've got multiple bots on the server, or if you're making a public bot, there's a good chance that the other servers that are using your bot are going to use multiple bots. So you just need to be careful that it doesn't respond to anything So it's good practice just to say don't respond to another bot of any kind, unless you've got a specific use case for it, and then in which case I would just add a whole bunch of logic in here. So if it's a bot author, only speak to it if it's a particular bot, and only if it says a particular thing, and then that way you can't get into trouble with Discord for event loose, and you don't annoy a whole bunch of people because you're spamming.
Yeah.
Your bot's just in an endless spam loop. So that's how you do that. Are there any more questions?
No. So I don't see any more questions. So I hope that kind of answers your question, WSQDef. All right.
Cool. Has anyone else got any more questions before we move on?
I see Decora's typing. Can we set up the bot to post a message at a specific time? So yeah, a scheduled message.
You can, but not natively, I don't believe, unless they're going to implement that in the next feature. The way that I handle that is I use an NPM package that is called, although I've noticed a problem with it recently, so I'm holding fire on using it, but it's NPM. It's just a cron scheduler. If you're familiar with Linux, and you might be familiar with cron jobs, but it's very basic. You just install the cron job. In the general way, you require the package. The time would be specific to the server, unless in this particular package you can obviously set the time. I think you guys are obviously familiar with cron jobs, but for those that aren't, these refer to seconds, minutes, hours, days of the month, days of the week, I think. So you can set this to various things. So this at the moment will run every second, of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every month, of every day of the week, or whatever all these mean. So it will just continuously keep running. So every second it will just keep. So if we set this up now, it would just console log. You will see this message every second. And you can set the particular time zone here. So if you don't want it to run on your server's time, but you want it to run in a particular time zone, you just change this to the time zone that you want. And it will run. The only problem and I've actually submitted an issue on their GitHub repository, because after 3 days it seems to fire, every 3 days it fires an extra request. So I use this in one of the bots that's now been running has been online for 16 days in total, and every time this runs it fires 16 messages, or no, sorry, not 16, 7 messages every time that fires, which is obviously not the desired effect. So it just depends on, and I think there are other packages, but the comments seem to indicate that a lot of other cron job based modules are doing exactly the same thing. So it's possible. You just need to be careful, and you just need to test it depending on what it is you do. Luckily, all I use it for is it just sends me statistics at midnight every night, so it doesn't really affect everyone else, but for me it just sends me 7 of the same statistic sets, which is kind of annoying, but it's not a deal breaker for me.
Does DigitalOcean offer cron jobs?
DigitalOcean technically does. It's not necessarily the provider that provide cron jobs. It's the you can set cron jobs up inside of the operating system, but this is more specific because this does it inside of your package or your application rather than from the outside. You would need a way. I suppose you could. Trying to think if you could trigger that in such a way. It's trying to pass events from outside of your application inside. So I guess you could set up some kind of API that would listen. Sure. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's not so much. Well, I think that the question here is that can we? Does DigitalOcean offer cron jobs? But it's not DigitalOcean that offer the cron jobs. It's inside of your operating system. But your operating system is not where you want the cron jobs to come from if you want your bot to send a message at specific timings. Where you want your cron job to come from inside of the application, not from outside of the application. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I'm thinking about where cron jobs also are being implemented. I know that, like, if you're going to look at, for example, WordPress and Drupal, which are PHP CMS systems, they also use cron jobs. But cron isn't on the server. It's actually in the WordPress and the Drupal core files.
Yeah.
So it's actually it's something you write yourself. It's not native to like the servers. It's
no.
I think you can use scripted events or processes from your Linux server, for example, or
Linux provides cron jobs natively, but as I say, the problem is getting that event. Once Linux fires that event, it's getting that event from there inside of your application. I guess one way you could do that is create some sort of express web server, and then fire some sort of event through the API that you've built. But what you really want to do is, that's why this package comes in useful, because you can just npm install it and that will fire inside. And effectively what this will do is this will just fire whatever it is that you do. And I've actually used this inside of ZeroBot as well, where you would just take this. Let's try it. So if we paste this in, make that const. We need to install cron, don't we? npm install cron. And did that error out? Okay, so let's Yeah, so let's up here paste this in. Job start. Why did that error?
Let's see.
Oh, there we go. I obviously did something wrong. Yes, okay, so now we've installed cron. What we'll do is if we... Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Oops. Name one. Okay, now what we should see is this should start firing every second. And we should see... He says... we should... That's not firing. Why is it not firing? There we go. So there we go. So now it's firing every second because it's firing the event inside of our application rather than externally. And then what we can do here is if you wanted it to, it gets a bit complicated when you're not doing things to a ready event. Let's just cancel this because that's going to bug me. But what you can do is once you've got Discord installed, you can do client guilds. This is one I can't do offhand off the top of my head. So if we go to an idiot's guide, because that's where I go to. Coding guide. That's not. It was another one. It's examples. Okay, or search prefixes. Purging a channel. No, if we search, so I need to get the channel. So channel and guilds. And then what we can do is we can and channels. Yeah, so there we go. So we can do that. But you can also sometimes this is where things get a little bit complicated. Sometimes you need to go through the guild. But you need access to the message in order to get to the guild this way. Or you can do client.guild.get and you can get the guild ID. And the guild, by the way, if you're not familiar, servers are actually technically known as guilds. They're not servers. So anytime in the documents that you see guild, all it actually refers to is each of these. So this bot test we're in now is not a server. It's actually a guild. Likewise is this one, and the Zero to Mastery server is actually a guild. So if it says get the guild ID, again, once you've enabled the developer ID, you can just copy the guild ID from there, and you can fetch the guild by that. But since we should be able to do this, we'll just copy this one. If we copy this, there we go. So we need the channel ID. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the ID of this text channel. We're just going to paste it in there. So we're going to get that, and then we can just do. I think we can just do send hi. I think that's what we can do. .get is not a function. Okay. So
.get.
Yeah, see, this is what I mean. Sometimes you need to there we go. So what we can do here is we can probably do this. So we could probably just do let's comment that out for a second. We can do client.guild .get And then I'm going to copy the guild ID like I showed you just a second ago. Just going to paste in there. Does that... Yeah, see, that's going to error out. Why is... I wonder if that's changed. Has that changed in the recent...
Let me check real quick. So the guilds. Well, I think first of all, it's not guilds, it's guild.
Okay. There we go.
I think that's one of the... Yeah, it has been changed to guild instead of guilds.
Okay.
And then you're trying to get... but I don't see get mentioned here. I do see fetch.
Okay, so fetch. it could well be changed to fetch. So
fetch this guild. Yeah, so I think you need to use fetch. Okay. So that's what you were using was I think version.
Yeah,
of the
and
API
this
11.
is going to be a lot of it. So fetch is still cannot read property fetch if undefined.
Try removing client because a guild is
yeah, but
guild is an object.
Yeah, but guild's not going to be defined. You need to get guild from somewhere. So what I would usually do here is Discord JS get channel by ID, and they would usually tell you. So can't. So this is something that I was supposed to mention earlier, is you will quite often see bot.channels.get or something where it starts with bot. Now, it depends on how you label your client up here. If you name that bot, then it would just be bot.on. But since we named it client, it's client.on. So just depends on how they named their Discord instance. If you named it client, then everything should be client. If you named it bot, then it should be, just so that doesn't...
but here they say you have to declare a new discord.guild. Wait, I'm just gonna send you, because I think you'll be needing this one instead. So I'm gonna send you in Discord.
Let's open Discord up. Fetches the guild. Promise. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I meant.
Before operations guild available. Yeah. So usually what you can do is you can usually call it, and this is where I say things get difficult when you call outside of, because if you have the message, you can obviously do what they're saying here, and you can call message.guild.channelsfind. For instance, if we did this, we would be able to and we found the channel name. Say we create oh no, if we created a channel called hello, we would then be able to where was I at? Inside of in here, yes. So channel. Yeah. So if we did this, but then I'm also going to need to comment out that when we send a message, is it gonna? Message. Oh, message is not defined. That's a good point, because we didn't call it message, did we?
Nope.
I try usually not to call things like that. I usually try and go long tail, because it. Again, we're gonna. Message.guild.channels find is not a function. So, I think a lot of this is going to be because it's changed. I wonder. And I wouldn't suggest that everyone.
Are you going to install version?
Yeah,
11?
I was going to get down one because otherwise this is going to be a very boring stream. What did I have before? What did? Because otherwise I'm just going to constantly become running into these issues, which obviously usually I would troubleshoot. But for the sake of everyone's sanity, let's.
I think you used for 0.11.4.2.
Yeah. Okay. Save. Okay. This is where it still errors, isn't it? Oh no. Did we run?
It seems to be running.
It's still going to error.
Nope.
Message.guild.channel is not a function. Why are we not a function? I don't understand.
Message guild.channel.find is not a function.
What's it? Message.
Oh yeah, it has to be guilds now.
Was it guilds? No. Message.guild. I wonder if we go back to which one was it? It was this one. So do these work now? No. This is interesting. Oh, because it wasn't fetch anymore, was it? It should have been get. Yeah. Although it's still throwing errors.
.channels.get.
And it's struggling with .get is not a function. So what we would then do is Discord.js get it's not a function. You don't appear to have logged into your client insert token, so you still have to log in using your token. Okay, so that makes sense. So okay, we didn't give it a channel to get, did we? So but it doesn't seem to be erroring anymore. And this is another thing that really gets frustrating with Discord when you're building the bots, is that they cache a lot of information. So sometimes when, like for instance, if you try and fetch how many people are inside the Discord server, it will quite often come back and tell you a figure which is almost accurate, but it'll be missing maybe like on a server of 0 to mastery scale where there's like 120,000 people in it. You might find that there's like 118,000 people. It comes back and says there's 118,000 people in there. And it's basically because some of those are not stored in the cache, or they've not, for whatever reason, they just don't show up. So you have to start going out of your way to start pulling information like this, which is usually quite annoying. So I'm assuming in version 12 they're trying to get around this, so there are different ways you can request the cache information. It's like if you're trying to detect reactions on a message, the bot doesn't know about any reactions on a message if the bot restarted. So if you restart the bot, it won't, and you ask it to pull all the people that reacted on it before that, it won't know about them because those reactions happened before its time. So you then have to start getting very creative by using raw log events to start figuring out how many people have reacted on a particular message, and I think that's why Discord is starting to revamp some of their systems to make some of these things more comprehensive, and you don't have to hack in to things that weren't designed for that.
Like the good old days.
Yeah. So, because I've lost countless hours to digging around and trying to find out. I'm not entirely sure what I was trying to do there.
Cannot read property of send.
Yeah, it doesn't know how to. So we've got that. Create invite then. Oh yeah, so what you can do here is this is probably going to get super annoying. But we can copy and paste this code in. And this is what I mean, is that most of the things you want, you can generally Google and find people that you can generally just copy and paste and tweak a lot of the code to suit your needs. Yeah, of course we need to create that. Message.guilds.channel.get, create invite.
Yeah,
yeah, because
we don't have message.
Yeah, because we haven't got access to message, so you can also look up messages, but why is it telling us? So yeah, guild channel send. So yeah, so when you're not inside of an actual event, it becomes very difficult to start sending messages. So you then have to start finding out ways of being able to get access to message. Like if you want to be able to send a message on this timer, for instance, you need to try and figure out a way that you can get access to the channel. And we've got this channel, I think, because if we console log that channel, it will tell us what we need to know. Like it's definitely got the information about the channel. It just doesn't know how to.
Yeah, so
then what we'd need to do is find out how to send the message, which is not something I've done for a while. There we go, and send. And there we go. So it's telling us everything that we need to know about that message. So what we can do is what's he doing here? So he's getting that. So Discord.js get channel by ID and send message. Discord.get.send does not work.
Well, you made an excellent terminal spammer.
Oh, is it spamming the terminal?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's running every minute, every second. And .send. Okay, so this is on the message, client on message. So this is not quite what we want, because these are trying to fire on side of the ready event, which is not what we want. We want to do it outside of any of the events. .get ID of the message, which is what I did, wasn't it? I did .send on your message. So I'm guessing that that's changed, because I'm pretty sure I did that.
Clients.
So, although because we've changed, because it's now clients.cache, but the way that they're suggesting is client.channels.get the ID, then .send. So, because if we did .send, and then we did hi.
Did Matt change the version and package.json? Yeah, he changed it there.
There we go, it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So I did change the packaging version. Now the reason I changed it, yeah, I changed. I reverted Discord back down to, although I don't think it actually worked, because we still seem to be using version 12. But I took it back down.
That's what WSQ dev is saying. We did npm install.
Oh no, of course we didn't. No, of course we didn't. So what we'll do is, it seems we've got stuff working. We'll ignore this and we'll carry on running 12.2.0. But just bear in mind that things have changed slightly between version 11 and version 12, which is it's obviously changed a whole bunch of stuff that I'm used to doing in a different way. So if you're using version 11 for whatever reason, it's going to be slightly different from, and a lot of the code, which also means a lot of the code that you're going to be looking at on, if you're searching Google like we are now to make some of this work, a lot of the code that you're looking at is going to be outdated and invalid. So you're just going to need to find a new way of going about adapting that, because what we have now is we have it working. If I can find Discord, so what we've got is outside of the event in this new cron job, we're firing every second, which is now finding the channel by this ID, and we're just sending hi to it, which is it's sending hi every second. But when we were looking at the Idiot's Guide, he tells us that in order to get the channel ID, we need to do client.channels.get and then the channel ID. But that didn't work. What we actually needed to do is client channels cache.get, then that, and then we could send the message that we wanted to outside of that. So some of this you're just going to need to tweak just that little bit. But I do, if I vaguely remember, so you can change this to version 12, which might have been handy to have thought about. But is this going to take us back to version 1? Okay, so yeah, so he has updated it. So you can pull all this from version 12. But I think I've seen a warning somewhere saying that his documents for version 12 is not up to date. Or it's not fully complete. So you might just, there might be a few things missing here and there. But it should get you through most of the way. Cool, so we've done that. Have we got any more questions on? I know some of that was probably a little bit confusing. That's my bad.
I do not see any questions at this moment. Although I see someone writing. 2 people.
Cool. So I guess we'll review those questions when they come in. That's all right. It's thank you for your patience. It's the first stream I've done, so it's definitely a learning process.
How would you go about making the bot add reactions to a message like thumbs for a voting system?
The reactions. The difficulty part is that once the bot stops, it no longer knows about the votes that happened before. So you're going to need to start messing with what's known as the raw log event. Now, the raw log event is a very messy situation. And it basically, you can listen to the raw log event. Now, every single thing that happens, it just sends this massive, it's just the raw event log of everything that happens inside that your Discord bot knows about inside of Discord. And it's very difficult to start pulling pieces off. But let's just assume that we just want to listen to reactions. What we would do is if we pull up... Okay, let's close that down. So let's take a look at Discord.js. Discord.js.org. Documentation. There are actually, I think as well, inside of inside of and the resources at the bottom, I've given you an event cheat sheet list. Now this basically gives you it's basically a cheat sheet for every single event type that's possible. So what we want to do is we want to come down here, you just find the one that you need. So channel update, it's when a channel updates, new name, topic changes, etc. So we're looking one for, I think it's called message reaction add, I believe it's called. Guild member, message delete, yeah, there we go. So it's this one, and what we need is, it gives you an example code that you can use here. So we paste this in here. Message reaction add is obviously just a function. Now what this gives us back is a message reaction object and the user object. So inside of this is basically just going to give us a it's going to tell us about the reaction that was added to the particular message. And it will give us details on the message itself as well. And then it'll also tell us about the user that made the reaction. So, and it's a basic form. If we just run that, and inside, Yeah, see, this is exactly what I was thinking about. Is you guys have replied to a message that the bot doesn't know about. So the bot can't pick up on this because it doesn't know about these messages. So if we send a new one, now if we react to that message, there we go, we've got a reaction has been added. We could take this one step further. We could do by user dot username, I think it is. Okay, and again we need to send a new message. And it tells me who it is that's reacting. Perhaps what we could also do is we could console log message reaction. And then when we react to this message, it tells us all about the message. So it tells us what the channel was, the ID of the channel, some of the permissions, and even the raw position. So it tells us that it was right at the top of the list. Goes into more detail. Tells us about the user that wrote the message in the first place, whether it was a pinned message, etc., etc. So you can pull all this information off. So depending on what it is you want to do, you can start using logic against some of these messages, some of these events, and then create the logic based around what it is that you want to do. So if you want to create a simple voting bot, you're probably not going to want much to do with this logic. You're just going to want to know how many it is. If you want to start counting up at the end of a specific thing, it's like a timing, you're going to obviously need to create a callback function that times out after a certain thing and announces the winner. There are, I believe they do things like that in some of the example codes. Yeah, you'll find certain examples for certain things that you'll be able to use that call back, but that's basically how you would do things on the message event. It just depends on what you want to do with the message, and it's how you deal with it from there on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'd find that it's not as complicated as, I think once you get into the nuts and bolts of building bots, it's not quite as difficult as maybe it looks. As we said before, it is really just a case. It's super easy when you're actually listening to, as you can see, when we're listening to events. So we're listening to the message reaction event. We're getting back the objects, and then we can do certain things with those objects. It becomes super easy. When you need to start doing things outside of these events, it gets a little bit more complicated, but it's still pretty straightforward once it's just getting over that learning curve and just figuring out what certain things are. But once you start doing things after a while, you start knowing then that you can pull off user.username, which will give you the username, or user.tag, which will give you the full user tag, and things start getting a lot easier, and you can start building up some really complex bots.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, any project that you will do, you can make it as complex or as simple as you want it. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can also start using C++ and all the other programming language and start making very advanced bots. Like some examples we tried out, the Jarvis bot, which is machine learning bots, so you can go as far or as short distance with your bots as you want.
Absolutely.
It just depends on your motivation.
Absolutely. No problem, WSQ Dev. It's
first day, nice.
Yeah, welcome to the server. It's been a learning experience for us. Well, definitely for myself. I've never talked through coding before. It was always it's always one of those things that, like, when things go wrong, it's always pretty scary to think that you've got people sat there watching you forget things right. But I also think that it's that it's one of those things when you watch lots of YouTubers and they're doing things and they're just flying through all these things because they've made those edits in between of things going smoothly and correctly. You get that false impression that everything should just be super quick and super easy. Like when you're watching Andre do all of his coding, I can guarantee that Andre didn't code that entire application with 0 mistakes. So I think sometimes it's helpful to see that process, although you definitely don't want to be seeing mistakes when you just want to see a quick YouTube video. But yeah,
it's all about having right documentation. Yeah,
but, absolutely.
I mean, I've done some YouTube videos in the past, and I know you're never gonna do like even an introduction to your video. You're never going to make it from the first clip. You're always gonna try to retake your records of your introduction until it's something you like, but that's not possible in live streaming.
And that's it. Nothing's ever perfect, and I think that replicates even into code as well. Like ZeroBot has been through multiple versions in coding, and it's something that we're never quite happy with, or particularly when you learn new stuff and it's like, oh, why did I write all that stuff that way when I could have just done it this way? So code is never perfect, and I think that the key is that you just need to, particularly if you've just started with JavaScript, the key is not waiting and putting things off and say, oh well, okay, I'll try a Discord bot when I get better at JavaScript, or when I know more, or because you're never going to get to that stage where you feel perfectly confident to jump out of tutorials and jump into writing your own applications and bots and stuff. So I think the key really is why not? What the worst thing you're gonna realize is that okay, you're not quite sure on promises or functions, so you can then go off and specifically tailor your learning rota to how functions work or how promises work, or so it's definitely worth jumping in even if you think that you're not quite at that stage.
Yeah, I mean, there was a saying that sounds like the following: Roman wasn't built in one day either. Yeah. So, how often I have looked back at old code I wrote and thought, man, I really need to refactor it as soon as possible. But that's what refactoring is for.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if you code this in the beginning, like not its best, and don't start refactoring your code immediately. I mean, just make it work first, and if it works, then start optimizing your code.
Absolutely. So yeah, Andre is a bit of a robot. He's a machine.
Oh yeah,
he is a machine, that's for sure. We didn't really cover how to use prefixes.
Oh yeah.
Now prefixes is something that whenever I've built a bot, I've always made a prefix, and it's always one of those that always gets in the way no matter which one you choose. For ZeroBot, we chose the hyphen prefix, and it gets in the way when people try to make lists. Most commonly, people use like the exclamation mark and various other things. Now, I'm not entirely sure why we don't just listen for when a bot is mentioned. So why don't we just listen to when the bot is referred to as that dummy, and just respond purely to when a bot is mentioned by name?
That's what I did with my digiclone.
It makes perfect sense. But if you were going to use the command, what you would basically do is you would just listen for the message. So you would just do something along the lines of you just make a constant of prefix equals message. It's not message, is it? It's MSG. Message.content, and then you would split the message content up by spaces usually. So if we did that, and then it would just be I think it would just be 0, wouldn't it? Because so I did the prefix, there we go. console.log prefix. And then if we say yeah, so the first thing that's going to log is the exclamation mark, but it's always going to be the very first thing that you put in. So if I do hi, it's just going to log exclamation hi. So that's all it is that you would do to get your prefix and your command. You would then just need some way to say, you just need to split those two apart. But personally, I think it's a much better option. I think if you was just to look for if the person was mentioned, and I think you can do that based on, I think it's just message.reaction. You can easily pick out Discord.js, get mentioned user, get an user ID from a mention, that'll do. So this here is what you would use. Console.log. So message.mention just returns an object of users that have been mentioned inside of things. So all this is actually doing is it's just grabbing the first person that was mentioned inside of the message, and then we're just gonna log it. So if we start it up, and if I say Matt, and then if we do 2 sec, you'll notice that message is not defined, because I really should have changed that.
Yeah.
Because I always use full message, not. It's because I copied and pasted code. That's what it was. There we go.
So.
There we go, and you'll see that it just returns me. It doesn't return anyone else.
Well, it is returning me. It's pinging me. I don't know if that was the.
Where? And that's what? In this year, this is me.
Ah, yeah. Okay. No, I was looking at the bot test. It was at mentioning me.
Oh yeah, because I mentioned you second. So what I'm saying is that this users.first is literally just it'll only return the first person that it mentioned. So if you listed a whole bunch of people, it will only ever return the first person mentioned in the message. There is a way to return every user. I'm not sure if it's just mention.users. Yeah, there you go. So if you do mention.users, it will list everyone that's been mentioned inside of that message.
Oh yeah.
But if you want the first person, you just append it with first, and then it will just give you the first person. We can definitely create a project if people are interested in building a Discord bot on the side.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a very interesting group project to do. And well, yeah, I think it would be interesting if we could make a decent working bot as a community, and see if we will make it public, how many people would install our bot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for joining, Thiago.
Thank you. We'll catch you again soon.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as anyone, I think we're probably coming towards the end. I'm guessing now, because or closer towards the end. So, if anyone else has got any questions or anything before we finish up, or if they want us to tackle any more questions, I don't think I have anything else on my notes. I mean, you guys are always welcome to drop me a message or ping me if you get anything. But we can definitely look into starting a project if people think that might be Might be worthwhile. I'll get a repo set up for that.
Well, most people left, and I think most people dozed off behind the screens. So, all right, now I think it's a good moment to bring it all to a funny.
Yeah.
It's only midnight. Yeah. I'm sorry, Peanut. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a late one.
Some people like to sleep before midnight.
Yeah, I don't. I like to sleep after midnight. I like to sleep after midnight.
When is the next streaming?
We haven't actually discussed that yet, but if there's something you wanna see, or where we can go from there, we can definitely reschedule another one.
Oh, it sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
But there's not something right in the top of my mind or what we could stream. So it all depends on the suggestions, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, do you want to learn more about Discord bots, or was it something different, or
not something specific? All right.
Yeah, well, I mean, keep an eye on the spreadsheet that's been put together, and I guess we'll update.
Kinda. You made the stream a little bit also to teach me how to do Discord bots.
Yes, absolutely.
So perhaps next stream I can teach Matt how to use JavaScript to exploit websites. Ethical hacking.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Ethical hacking would be quite a good subject.
Yeah, I mean, I often mention it at Andre that he always forget to mention the cybersecurity field at Python, the Python roadmaps, but I don't know if the students here would be interested in learning how to make like a Mac changer or a network spoofer.
It's definitely something worth looking into. Yeah, it's always something worth learning.
But, yeah, true. It's always worth learning something, but.
So yeah, keep an eye on the documents, on the spreadsheets, and see what pops up. Got another one from RJ tomorrow. Looks like he's building React hook forms. So that one should be interesting. I think does Eric stream every Thursday around 8 p.m. EST?
Not every week, but every couple.
Cool. So and I know you, Brittany, you do quite a few as well, don't you?
I've been about on the same schedule about every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining, and until next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye.